Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we continue our Where is Primarch series with Where is Lion L. Johnson, Primarch of the Dark Angels. Now this topic was covered a little bit back in Lion Week a few months ago now, when the speculation of the Dark Angels box set was running rampant, but we can't have a Where is Primarch series without including the Lion. So, general spoiler warning for today, we are going to be going over the current general lore and Horus Heresy history, so be warned if you are not up to date with the Horus Heresy novels. But, with that said, let's jump straight in. So, as usual, we begin by looking at what happened with Lion L. Johnson at the end of the Heresy. Well, after spending 3 years engaged in the Framus Crusade against his traitor brother Comrade Kurz and his Night Lord's Legion, the Lion and his Dark Angels ultimately proved the victor, destroying around a fourth of the Night Lord's Legion. After this, the Lion did indeed plan on heading directly for Terra, but found the galaxy-spanning warp storms of the Ruin Storm made the journey impossible. Instead, they found the beacon light of the Pharos in Ultramar, realm of Rebute Guilliman. And the Lion came prepared, 20,000 Dark Angels and a fleet powerful enough to rip Macragge in half at the slightest hint of heresy. For L. Johnson was highly sceptical of his brother Guilliman's empire building ambitions. Despite the arrival in a facade of friendship, the Lion made it clear to his brother of his doubts. Indeed, the Lion's suspicions were proven correct when Guilliman shared with him his plans for an Imperium Secundus, his plan to keep the flame of the Imperium alight amidst the dark. But to the Lion, this looked very much like trying to build your own empire on top of the corpse of the old one. Guilliman appealed to his brother with one key point, that the difference between himself and Horus, however, is that Guilliman did not want to be emperor. Their impasse was broken by Comrade Kurz, of all people, captive aboard the Lion's flagship, the Invincible Reason, who launched the 400 fully manned drop pods the Lion had been keeping on standby to bring Guilliman to heel if needed. Here, surprisingly, a great measure of trust was made between the brothers as Guilliman listened to the Lion's impassioned pleas to not shoot his sons from the sky. Kurz would go on to cause havoc across Macragge and lead to some almighty epic duels between himself and his brothers. But ultimately, the arrival of Sanguinius broke the stalemate between them, as both were happy to follow him, if not the other. Once the truth was revealed that the Emperor still lived and Terra still stood, the three immediately set course to try and break through the Ruin Storm to make it to Terra. Deciding it better that one certainly could get through rather than risk none, the Lion and Guilliman agreed to use their fleets to help Sanguinius and his Blood Angels make it through the impossibly vast blockades before them. And thus, the Lion did not head to Terra. At some point after this, the light of the Astronomicon went out for the Dark Angels, and the Lion feared the worst, that indeed Terra had fallen to Horus. Here, the Lion set about cleansing the Imperium of traitors, in the hope of drawing reinforcements away from Terra, notably destroying Chemos, homeworld of Fulgrim, and Barbarus, homeworld of Mortarion and his Death Guard. Now, eventually the Lion set course for Terra, but of course he arrived too late and became consumed with grief upon what he found. His father, the Emperor, enthroned upon the Golden Throne. Letting out his emotions in a talk with his also late arrived brother Leman Russ upon Terra, the Lion thrust his sword into the chest of Russ, turning the blade aside at the last moment to avoid his heart. Russ later remarked that he knew the Lion wouldn't kill him, and that it needed to happen. It cleansed the bad blood between them, and they could talk as brothers after, and apparently became much closer. After the lion left for Terra to return to Caliban, he was never heard from again. The Dark Angels keep their secrets, saying only he died fighting the great enemy. Russ, for one, however, did not believe it. Knowing how hard he was to bring down, he didn't believe that the lion would fall to the enemy. And I guess in a way he would be right. As we know, upon returning to Caliban, the Dark Angel fleet was fired upon by their own brothers, left upon the homeworld, turned traitor, and led by the lion's one-time closest confidant, Luther, former sworn brother of the lion. And in his fury, the lion bombarded his former home and led the attack personally to landfall against his former legionnaires. Luther, imbued by the Chaos Gods, was more than a match for the Primarch, and as their duel reached its climax, the very bedrock of Caliban broke apart. The fallen were sucked into warp storms, lost to time. Only Luther remained, crying for forgiveness, and of the lion there was no sign. All that was left of Caliban was the fortress monastery of the Dark Angels themselves, atop a huge chunk of rock, which of course they crafted to become an immense starship, their new fleet-based home, and, not to put a finer point on it, named the Rock. The biggest secret of all, of course, apparently known only to the Emperor. Deep within the bedrock lies Lion L. Johnson sleeping, awaiting the time the call for battle awakens him once more. So we know where he is. Question is, how will he awaken? While I like the story out there of Russ being the one to return and awaken the lion, I don't think we would get two Primarchs return in quick succession, so that's not going to happen. Now, does the Emperor truly know the lion sleeps beneath the rock? It's possible. He used to be able to see across the galaxy to his suns before the warp storms. I guess it may depend on what side of the Great Rift the rock is currently on, but I doubt it. He's had far too much on his plate just holding back the tides of chaos for every second for 10,000 years to have time for a little look around for his sons. But it's stated by Guilliman himself in his thoughts that the Emperor is possibly more powerful than ever now, and we know he is active on the galactic stage once again. What I think would be a great scene is if somehow the Emperor becomes aware of the lion within the rock. Something happens to allow the Emperor to sense his son for the first time, since before his interment upon the throne. Perhaps something to do with a fallen army that we know is gathering amidst the warp. What are they preparing for? It's got to be an attack on the Dark Angels. It has to be. When they launch an attack on the rocket, it could spark something that draws all the Emperor's attention to this one point in the galaxy for the first time in 10,000 years. And then the Emperor speaks to the lion in his dreams, a vision of some sort, whilst the lion sleeps. Let's not forget, the Emperor never once questioned Lion L. Johnson's loyalty. Never once. When the lion was headed to MacLeod to sanction Guilliman, the Emperor never thought maybe the lion had fallen. He thought, what was Guilliman up to for the lion having to go there? So it would have to be something along the lines of, your time of rest is over, the Imperium needs you, arise my son, awaken my son, arise my War Master. Oh yes, I said it, War Master Lion L. Johnson, back kicking traitor ass and taking names. Okay, calm down, Rho. Maybe not War Master, but can you imagine if he was? Appointed by the Emperor himself, the clash between him and Guilliman. Oh, what a storyline that would be. Now, a lot of people gloss over the relationship that was formed between the Lion and Guilliman in the Imperium Secundus storyline. Yes, they have their differences and arguments, but they learned at times to trust each other and to put aside their differences, because ultimately they were both loyal Is the lion going to be pissed when he wakes up? Oh, hell yes. Where to start? First, he was immensely proud of his legion, the First Legion. And now he'll find them reduced to a mere chapter? And because of Guilliman? Yeah, that ain't happening. The lion would not have gone on with the Codex Astartes. As far as he's concerned, if you're a traitor, then you just need to be wiped out. He doesn't care if the Astartes are all broken down into chapters. He doesn't care how many chapters turn or how many legions. Whoever they were going to face his wrath. The Dark Angels will be reformed into a legion, or at the very least, the Unforgiven chapters will be commanded as one. He won't care what Guilliman has to say about that. Secondly, the Imperium as he knew it is long gone. It's a shambles. And worse still, the Imperial truth is gone and replaced by a bunch of religious nuts worshipping his father who decreed himself he is not a god. Yeah, he's not going to be happy about that either. However, I believe the lion would prioritise and realise that this is a subject he could handle after cleansing chaos from the rest of the galaxy. And oh yeah, about that, he would go on an absolute tear. Now this guy was widely touted as one of the best commanders out of all the Primarchs. He outwitted Horus and denied him vital weapons at the outbreak of the heresy with just a handful of men. Admittedly, he ended up giving them to Perturabo, but still, Horus had more victories than the lion, yes, but the lion was found long after. It's heavily implied the lion was gaining, and if they had been found at the same time, we could have a very different story. The Chaos Gods would be furious at the return of Lionel Johnson to the Imperium, and so too would his traitor brothers. This guy was one of the best swordsmen out of all the Primarchs. He physically beat a chaos-embracing Kurz into a coma, and on another occasion snapped him across his knee. Can you imagine a duel between the lion and Fulgrim? Oh man, that would be good. Or a meeting with Perturabo after being deceived by him all those years ago. Knowing those guns were used against his father and against the Imperial Palace? Oh man, the lion would be pissed. And lastly, he would return to find Rabute Guilliman as Imperial Regent. The one thing the lion doubted most about his brother playing Emperor, acting out before his very eyes. I think we could very well see Dark Angels versus Ultramarines in this situation. Now, would cooler heads prevail? Yes, they would, but I do think the lion will confront Guilliman, and I do think he will beat him in a fight. But something will happen to help him realise Guilliman is still loyal and doing as their father commands. Perhaps a vision from the Emperor just in the nick of time. Maybe seeing the Emperor's sword aflame with his father's power. Or maybe one of their fallen brothers arrives, who knows? But it's going to happen. I still believe the lion is the next loyalist Primarch to return. It makes too much of a good story. And I can't wait. Because after all, loyalty is its own reward. But that's it for today's. What do you guys think about the lion's return? As always, drop a comment down below with your thoughts. A huge thank you to all of my subscribers. Your support really means a lot to me. It truly does. And if you're new, then please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you guys again real soon.